What's poppin', everyone? Adma here. So it's been a while since I made a video. It's not really that I haven't had time to make a video, it's just I haven't had content to actually make videos on. But I decided that I would actually make some videos for you guys. So in this video, I want to talk about the Infinix S5 Pro. So basically, this is a phone that we've been preparing for. We've had a lot of leaks and rumors, and it was slated to come out February, but then it got delayed because of the coronavirus. And then it got launched around March 6th in India. Now, it's a pretty interesting phone, in my opinion, but it's also a bit underwhelming to me. Now, I don't have hands-on. We're here in Nigeria and it hasn't been launched in Nigeria yet. Hopefully, when it does get launched in Nigeria, I should be able to get hands-on with it and maybe make an impressions video. Or who knows, maybe I'll even make a full review video. But for now, this is just my general first impressions, seeing the device in other people's video. The first thing I want to talk about with the Infinix S5 is basically its major headlining feature, which is that full screen display that doesn't have any notch or hole punch in it. It has a pop-up camera. Now, before we get to the pop-up camera and all of the disadvantages that it should have, let me actually talk about that screen. Now, I have two problems with the screen. One is chin, another one is screen technology. Now, Infinix has been using IPS LCD screens for like a lot of their phones. It's getting a bit annoying because by now AMOLED panels should be getting at least a bit cheaper, and AMOLED panels are like the standard for smartphones. I wonder why you would still be sticking with IPS LCD. It's not very battery friendly, and well, that's actually the major thing that makes me lean against LCD displays. Not that LCD displays are bad or anything, but it's mostly that battery efficiency that I look to whenever I'm talking about my phones. Now, this is a phone that was released in 2020, so it's supposed to conform to 2020 norms, and it doesn't. I mean, why an IPS LCD screen? It doesn't make sense to me. But then, that aside, that's basically just the nitpick for me. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the chin. Now, the entire point of making a phone that doesn't have any hole punch or notch and replacing the front-facing camera with a motorized pop-up camera is so that you will get a full screen display. So basically, you get a phone that someone looks at and then says, wow, this is basically all screen. You guys saw the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and all the other phones that have been coming out recently. They are closer to full screen than many others. But then, Infinix phones like the Infinix S4, for instance, those chins are massive, and it sort of interrupts the entire full screen illusion. To me, I don't actually see a reason why the phone shouldn't have a full screen display and a very minimalistic chin. That chin is very, very pronounced to me. And the point of it, as I said before, the point of putting a motorized pop-up camera is so that you have a full screen display. So how are you supposed to have a full screen display when your phone isn't basically full screen? I mean, it doesn't add up. It's just a nitpick from me. It's not like saying that the phone is bad because it doesn't have this. It's just me saying this could have been better, this could have been better. Now, I can't talk too much on performance because we don't actually have the phone in hand. It's running a MediaTek Helio P35. Another part of the phone that I find very controversial, but I will save my comments till I actually get full hands-on on the phone and I've actually tested it by myself to know if it's decent. Then the second major highlight of the phone is the camera. It has a 48 megapixel main camera. Now, there are some people that will say the MediaTek Helio P35 doesn't support 48 megapixel cameras. I also thought the same thing. I actually did some Googling and I discovered that there are chipsets that, even though they don't support the main 48 megapixels, because the camera sensor was made not to actually produce full 48 megapixel shots, but to actually produce pixel binned 12 megapixel shots, you can then use a chip that doesn't support the full 48 megapixel resolution and still get a very high quality and decent shot. But you shouldn't be able to get true 48 megapixels if you were to switch it to the 48 megapixel mode. Now, one other phone that had this issue was the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7. Now, no one actually noticed this. It had a 48 megapixel main camera, but it was running on a Snapdragon 660, which does not support a 48 megapixel camera. No one noticed this because it was a very new chip, so you wouldn't actually take your mind to look into this. This is one issue I have with using older generation chipsets instead of coming to the future. Now, I'm not going to get into the chipset. I've already said I won't get into the chipset. But then, the 48 megapixel camera should still produce some pretty decent shots. We'll have to wait till we get the phone in hand to actually be able to see. But for now, all I'll say is the Infinix S5 Pro, it's a pretty decent deal, all right. It comes with 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage. Why it doesn't have up to 6 gigs of RAM, I don't understand. 4 gigs of RAM is getting a bit underwhelming in 2020. At least 6 gigs of RAM will be manageable. But I'm not complaining. If Infinix does their RAM management well, you can still use 4 gigs of RAM and be perfectly comfortable. Now, should you get the Infinix S5 Pro if you already have the Infinix S5? Well, it depends on you. Do you want to have the downsides of having a motorized pop-up camera with all the fears of it getting damaged or water splashing and entering into the phone and all that kind of thing? Of course, this phone doesn't have any form of water resistance, so we can't say for sure. But we'll have to wait till we actually get the phone in hand. Thanks for watching. I know it's a very short video, but I just had to put something out there on the phone. When I do actually get the phone in hand, I'll make a full comprehensive video on it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.
We must pay homage to him.